Hey everybody, this is Braxton Taylor, co-host of Jedi Eternal, a Star Wars podcast, and on this week's episode 95, we discuss the High Republic Phase 3 reveals, our most anticipated reveal from Celebration, and review the penultimate episode of Mandalorian Season 3. So join along with us and hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello there. At last, where have you been?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
This is where the fun begins.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are on episode 95 of Jedi Eternal, a Star Wars podcast, inching ever closer to that big 100 number. I am one of your co-hosts, Braxton Taylor, alongside Andrew. I could not think of anything to say. Bolin.
Wow, how original.
Yeah, I know, right?
How original.
I know. I'm feeling very uncreative today.
I feel like it would have been almost been better to just not say anything at all than to say you couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, well, live and learn. Say la vie. So anyway, here we are for episode 95. On the heels of Star Wars Celebration with a lot of great things coming out. Please go back if you're interested in what happened in Star Wars Celebration. Feel free to go back to episode 94 last week, where we cover kind of the main things that were in the Lucasfilm showcase. And there's a lot of great stuff on there. But this week we're going to kind of like recap what kind of the smaller things, but still really cool stuff that's come out since then.
Yeah, because the day that we recorded last week, it was the first day of Celebration. But now there has been multiple days of Celebration that came after that.
Right.
And there is some news that has happened. Actually, a lot of news, really, that we can talk about today. So we're going to dive into all that and dive into the latest episode of The Mandalorian.
The penultimate episode.
Which we do have thoughts and opinions on that we can't wait to share.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's going to be good stuff.
Yeah. You guys shared your thoughts on the episode with us as well. And we have some community discussion about Star Wars Celebration. So let's just get right into it. Now, actually, let's not get right into it. Real quick plug. As we do every episode, we want to just talk about our Patreon for just a quick second, and that is anytime anyone comes and subscribes to our Patreon for only $5 a month, you become a producer of our podcast, which number one thing that you get out of that is that you get to have a direct say into how we run this podcast and our next thing that we're about to announce on that as well. And but if we have any decisions or anything, we're curious about where we need to go, we go to you guys first. The second thing you get, of course, is access to a secondary podcast that we do called And Other Stuff. And of course, like I said, you're a producer over that as well. So on that, we talk about anything and everything. Usually becomes video games, our lives, and movies. And that's kind of primarily what it is. But we talk about anything as it comes up. It's kind of more freeform and fun. So if that's something that interests you, there is 8 to 10 episodes somewhere through there on it right now. Plenty of content already for you to get access for only $5 a month. And then last but not least, we do like to go ahead and shout out those of you who are current producers. So Andrew, who do we have this week?
Yes, we have JB, Josh and Birkinshaw, Tara Boland, Grayson David Gill, Alex Mason, Corey Wise, Jay Camdar, Jenna, and Promise.
And we thank you guys so much. Seriously, it really does help us, and we really, truly do appreciate each and every one of our producers. And big shout out to you guys. But now we can get into the main show here. Lots of great stuff this week, but we're going to get into our news, and we got plenty of it this week. So let's start off with our very first news piece, and that is Star Wars Celebration announces its next destination, and that is Japan. In Tokyo, Japan in 2025. So we're taking a bit of a rest year here, and we're going all the way over across the Pacific to the land of the rising sun. It has not been there since 2008. So this is it's a long overdue stop for people in our Pacific, East Asian demographic there. So I have some thoughts on that. I know, Drew, maybe you weren't super excited about that.
I am very unthrilled about this.
Unthrilled. That's one way to put it.
Yeah, I'm not happy. Listen, I get it. Okay, I get it. I get why they're doing it. There's a whole slew of fans over there that can make all kinds of money. I get it. I totally get it. But for me, as an American, I am disappointed because, last year I was at Celebration in California, and that was already pushing it for me. Okay, being able to get all the way to California. For those of you who don't really remember where we're located, we're in Indiana. Okay, we're out in the cornfields.
Middle nowhere. Yeah.
Not really, but that's what people think when you say you're in Indiana.
Well, I mean, listen, we could drive for 10 minutes and get to a cornfield.
We could get to a cornfield pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I had to go all the way to California. That was a pricey trip. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that goes into making a trip out to California.
Right.
Totally worth it. Loved it. Enjoyed every second of it. But it was a lot. So then I'm sitting there in the convention center. I'm at the closing ceremony.
Right.
I got my phone out. I am ready to book a hotel, for the next place. I really was. I was like, I will price line a hotel right the minute they announce it.
You pretty much got to.
Yeah. Right. Well, or you can wait and go through their thing, but then you're going to be, anyways.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and then they're like, it's going to be in it's Celebration Europe, and I'm like,
no.
Oh no. Okay, so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to this one. I'll go the year after that. So 2024. Yeah. Well, then it was a couple weeks ago. Celebration kind of just like casually dropped that there wouldn't be one in 2024, and so I was like, oh, okay, so there's going to be a big wait, but all right, well, then I'll just plan to go in 2025.
Right.
So then, last week I'm sitting in my home watching Star Wars Celebration live stream, and I'm watching the closing ceremony. I got my phone out. I'm on Priceline, ready to see wherever they announce it. Me thinking, I 100% believed it was going to be in Orlando. I had convinced myself it would be in Orlando because based off of history, it made sense that would be the next American location. And so that's really where I thought it would be.
Which probably still is true, right? But
you would think so. But and so like I'm ready to go.
Right.
And then they say Japan. And I'm like you should have seen I just melted. And my wife was here too, and she just looked over at me, and I was just speechless. I didn't even know what to say or do. I just kind of just sat there in silence.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, at this point, I'm not going to Celebration until at least 2026, and that's very sad.
If it comes in 2026,
if it comes in 2026, it may be 2027.
Yeah,
and who's to say it's going to be in America in 2027? I don't know. It has to be in America next, right?
You'd imagine. It's hard to say.
So, anyways, I was a little bummed, and could I go to Japan? I mean,
theoretically, yes.
Theoretically, yes, I could.
Yeah,
but realistically, I can't. It does not make sense for me
money
to do
wise,
this.
right?
It doesn't make sense for me money wise. It doesn't make sense for me with just like my family right now. I got a little boy, newborn, and he's not going to be that much older yet. It's just a lot of things go into it. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I understand that.
So no, I will not be going. I'll be watching from home again in 2025.
Womp womp.
And it's very disheartening.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for all of the Japan Star Wars fans because they're gonna get. I mean, they haven't had one since 2008, right? So
yeah, even with like our Australian fans and stuff like that, right? That they're pretty close over there too.
Yeah, I mean it's it's great for those people. It's just really sad for me.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to be on the same boat. I will say though, I am someone who is very, very into Japan. I've always wanted to go to Tokyo, go to Shibuya Station, go to Osaka.
Sure.
I want to go to all these places. And so what better reason to go for me than to go to a big Star Wars Celebration and also try to couple in a couple days or maybe a week max, to go to throughout Tokyo and
I mean,
Kyoto.
if you got the money to do it, But for me,
Which
it's
I'm not
like,
saying I will.
for me, the way I looked at it is, if I'm gonna go to Japan, I'm probably not gonna go on a celebration because I do want to be able to see things, and I'm not gonna be able to afford to stay like
True.
forever. So
True.
if
Yeah.
those days that I would be in a convention center, if I'm gonna go to Japan, I should probably spend those days like actually
yeah.
experiencing Japan.
I agree.
And
I
so, in convention center, you're just still going to be with a bunch of sweaty guys. Like, it's going to smell bad. It's going to.
It might be a little bit better 'cause you're in
I doubt
Japan,
it.
but who knows,
No,
you
probably
know.
not.
It's like they're a notoriously clean country, you know, clean people, but you're gonna get people from all over the world.
I was gonna say, you're still gonna have people
You're
from all
still
over the
gonna
world.
get
It's like you're still gonna have a
snaky
bunch
Americans,
of
you
you're
know?
gonna have a bunch of big sweaty Americans there.
Womp womp. sorry, Japan. No, anyway, so unfortunately, most likely neither of us are going to be there. Again, if anybody's out there
I was
listening,
gonna say, if any of you want to
come on,
pay, if any
baby.
of you want to pay our way to Star Wars Celebration
we
2025,
will FaceTime you. We will do special
we
reporting.
will,
just
we will
for
write you a card that says
we'll
thank
write
you
a thank you note and send it your way free of charge.
with our signatures on it.
Just pay shipping and handling. But for real though, Star
Charge
Wars.
you
If
for
you're
the
listening,
stamp, but-
if you want to send us over as liaisons, right, or reporters, we'll do it.
We'll
you
do
know.
it. We'll do it.
Anyway,
I don't know. I have to look at my schedule, but
I know,
can most likely fit it in.
I think it was Corey Wise, I believe. Right? Yeah, I think I might be able to pencil it in. Right? I think Corey Wise was saying that he really wanted to go to Japan as well, and this would be a perfect opportunity.
Well,
so.
here's the thing: if any of our listeners, in all seriousness, if any of you do plan to go or
Please
end
let
up
us
going
know.
there, please
Yeah.
let us know, because we would absolutely love to have someone on site for it. I mean, we would
Yeah.
love that, and we would give you access to be able to to be an official reporter for us. So
Yeah.
if you have the desire to go,
Yeah.
let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody's going, just let us know. Anyway, so let's go ahead and move on to our second news piece, my good man.
Yeah, let's do it. So we're going to jump into some more stuff that we heard from Celebration. They had a Marvel panel at Celebration this year, as they always do, and they have revealed kind of the next big event. As you know, Marvel has been doing crossover events with all of their different Star Wars series. The most recent being Hidden Empire, which was the one that includes Kira. And so they've been hinting at some things that were to come next. And now they've officially revealed that, and it's called Dark Droids. And this is going to start in August. And so I'll just read kind of what it says here. In Dark Droids, a mysterious new threat called the Scourge corrupts droids, cyborgs, and everything in between, spreading chaos through the galaxy. Ajax Sigma, who first appeared in last year's Star Wars Revelations issue number 1, will play a role in the saga, though his true intentions remain unknown.
Mysterious.
So Charles Soule will write the main miniseries. Charles Soule, of course, one of the main guys from the High Republic as well, and he's also done a lot of Star Wars comics. It's going to spill into one-shots and the 4 ongoing Marvel series. So that being Star Wars, Darth Vader, Dr. Aphra, and Bounty Hunters. So, yeah, it's not a whole lot else is known yet about that. But I do think that I'm sure it'll be good, because they've been really good about just kind of making the big crossover events in the Star Wars comics just good. They've just done a really good job with it. I've been impressed every time. The fact that they brought back Kira and all of that stuff has been really intriguing and very interesting. Which I am gonna some spoilers for Hidden Empire. I finished Hidden Empire, and it's intriguing because, again, spoilers if you don't want to hear the ending of it. But she fails because her mission was to defeat the Sith. She failed. She did not do it, and essentially she goes back into hiding. But she's still out there. Kira's still out there. So I think they left the door open.
So they're really just letting themselves have some leeway there.
I think there's still a good chance that somewhere down the road we're going to see Kira in live action again. I think they really want to bring her back. They're just trying to figure out when and where. But she's definitely still a main player out there in the Star Wars universe. So.
Oh yeah,
and she's a threat to be reckoned with. They've made her into a serious threat. Like she's trained, highly trained. She's learned from Darth Maul, and so she understands that combat style. But she also learned how to fight against Palpatine.
Yeah.
She learned Palpatine's fighting style, which I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I can't
But
remember.
she learned or because Maul knew it, Maul taught it to her, and so she's like super highly skilled. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Dark Droid's coming in August, the next big crossover. I'm sure there'll be something really cool in it. So just keep your eyes out for that.
Yeah, should be pretty cool on that. So our next news piece is actually about Star Wars Visions. If for those of you who may not remember, Star Wars Visions was in the first season, right, or the first volume as they call it, was kind of a conglomeration of a lot of different Japanese animation artists, who typically do anime, right? And they kind of came together, and each of them were given free liberty of, to express Star Wars how they interpreted it, right? So they obviously announced Volume 2 of Star Wars Visions, which is actually going to take on a kind of a new form of same thing, right? It's going to be people's individual interpretation of Star Wars through animation, but it's going to be in multiple different countries. It's not just Japan. And we, in our previous episode, we had went over all of the different countries and the different studios that are going to be undertaking that. But in Star Wars Celebration, they actually did showcase Volume 2, and they showed us a lot of great info and clips and things of that. So, Drew, what do we have on that?
Yeah, so they showed a trailer for Visions. I think everyone can see the trailer, right? That's something they released to the public. Yeah, they released it to the public. And
Big yawn.
Sorry, big yawn.
It
was
grief,
actually
man.
Yeah, sorry, so professional.
No, I know.
It looks really cool. There, I am way more pumped about this volume of Visions than I was the last.
Yeah,
one.
we're not getting into why, but
No, we can get into why.
he just doesn't like Japanese people. I'm just kidding.
No, I am not a big fan of anime, as I have made it known.
Yeah.
Anime is I don't know. I just don't like it. It just most of the time it bothers me. I'm just not a fan of it.
Wow.
However, this is so much more than just anime. It's tons of different styles, and some of them have really called out to me. I think some of them are very intriguing.
Yeah.
And I'll also say, from what I've seen, a lot of these are just honoring the Star Wars universe a little more. I felt like the first series, the anime, they really went crazy with it. Like so crazy that a lot of it didn't even feel like Star Wars.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
And again, of course I haven't seen any of these yet, but the trailer for this, a lot of it looked more like, oh, okay, this is identifiably Star Wars and unique animation styles. And so,
I mean, listen, if Wallace and Gromit doesn't scream Star Wars to you, I don't know what to tell you.
Well,
I genuinely can't wait to watch that.
Well, I was about to say, and that's one of the ones I'm most excited for.
So
I mean,
dumb, but I
it's
love
just that is just the best. I'm so excited to watch Star Wars in a Wallace and Gromit art style.
Yes.
I cannot tell you how excited I am for that. And just in the trailer, you got like a Wookiee in it, and that's in that style. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And then there is, one that's about like it shows like a Sith that looks really
that
interesting.
animation style's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so much more excited for this.
Yeah.
And everything I've seen so far, it looks very promising. And this is going to come out on Yeah, May the 4th.
May 4th. Yeah.
Yeah, May the 4th be with you.
Oh.
So that is coming out May the 4th, alongside, I believe, isn't that one kid show coming out May the 4th too?
I believe so. Yeah. What is it called?
I don't know, the one about the first High Republic show.
Yeah. Young Jedi Adventures.
Young Jedi Adventures.
Yeah.
Isn't that coming in May 4th?
I believe so.
Or did they change it?
I don't know. We'll double check. Maybe.
Anyways, so that's good. There's 9 shorts involved in that, and of course, if it's anything like Volume 1, you'll be able to like sit there and essentially watch all of them in like one sitting.
Google is telling me April 26th for Young Jedi Adventure, so maybe they moved it up.
Oh, did they?
This is what, like I said, this is what Google's telling me anyway.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. So, anyways, excited for that whenever it does show up. But let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And that is Star Wars: The Bad Batch Season 3 to be the final season.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's clearly some people who are going to be very tore up about that, and there's some people who are going to be kind of happy about that.
Yeah, me and Braxton have said it many times. If you listen to our podcast, you know that we struggle to find any reason to like The Bad Batch.
Yeah.
The second season did not change my view on that. Again, were there a couple episodes I really enjoyed? Yes, there were. But they're so far and few in between that it just is not important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that for me, it's for the best that this is going to be the last season. But I do hope it wraps up with some meaning. I hope that they have some good stuff in this final season. And I do think that it makes sense not to go much longer, because I think that what it seems the overall narrative has been, now that we're through 2 seasons, is, aside from the Bad Batch just going on goofy little trips and messing up all the time.
Failed heists every time.
The overall narrative has been that transitioning of the clones into, and what happens to them and all that stuff, which has been the most interesting part of the series.
Oh, yeah.
I wish it focused on that a little more than it does.
Yeah.
But anyway, season 3. Do you have any?
Let's say still waiting for our spin-off series of Rex and Echo, right? Rescuing the clones and rehabilitating them. I mean, that's what we're really wanting.
that would be more interesting to me at this point. But.
Yeah, because again, I mean, as you said, and I completely agree, is that what primarily brought me to Bad Batch and why I did enjoy it is, again, to see all of the stuff. Well, let me back up, right? Star Wars, as we heard last episode, as Kathleen Kennedy said, is that George Lucas's vision for Star Wars is that we're going to be moving forward and backwards through a specific timeline. And I would even go as far as to say it's not just forward and backward, but it's also in 3 dimensions, right? Left and right, up and down. And, again, Bad Batch for me was just an extra layer, right, of context to what we already know. Mm-hmm. And it was cool to see the transition of the Republic to the Empire through the eyes of the clones, which, again, as you said, we really didn't get it as much as we really should have, because that was the whole point of the show. So anyway, definitely interested to see how season 3 wraps it up and see if they focus on that even more, and just to go from there and see what they do with it, for sure. So our next one here is kind of exciting one for Andrew and I both, and that is Tales of the Jedi is to receive a second season. So Tales of the Jedi, if you are not familiar with it, it was a limited series of is either 3 episodes each or 4 episodes each. I think it was 4, right? I believe it's 4 episodes.
6.
Oh, so it was 3 each? Or
3 each. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, but basically, the show focused around 2 specific people, and it was Ahsoka and Count Dooku, and it kind of went a progression through both of their lives through a series of 3 episodes each. Long story short, it was great. It was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Oh, there's a rainbow outside. Anyway. You have to lean up over the thing. Anyway, sorry, I have severe ADHD. Anyway, long story short,
Rainbow.
it was a great series. Again, and that it just goes to show you that animation can be done well. And it can have humor, it can have light moments, but it can also be done really well and give you some really awesome storytelling. So I'm very excited for season 2 of this. Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I would love to see this maybe expanded a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they tried it out once with the 6 episodes. They were all, you know, short. They're very short, and I think it went over well. So I'm hoping maybe it's expanded, whether that be more episodes or longer episodes. But we don't know anything else at this point. We do not know who they're going to tell stories about. You know, that's all up in the air.
Right.
So
let us know, you know, if we get, when we get this new season, you know, we got Ahsoka and we got Count Dooku. Who would you think that would be a good duo that are, you know, because here's the thing, Count Dooku and Ahsoka are not really an expected duo, right, in terms of storytelling, necessarily speaking. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. So let us know who you would like to see as the duo in season 2. So it'd be interesting to think
and yeah, I mean, there's so many opportunities, right, when you start to think about it, who they could tell stories about. And Qui-Gon would be a good one, and it would kind of line up with the fact that we got Liam Neeson back in in this series.
And he's clearly very much willing to come back and reprise his roles.
Then we also, his son was in it, who voicing Qui-Gon as a younger Padawan. So there is some opportunity there. But they may feel like maybe that's too close to what they've already shown, because Qui-Gon was involved because of Count Dooku,
right?
But yeah, I mean, I loved the first season, and I think there's just so much opportunity here, and with the Bad Batch season 3 coming to a close, Lucasfilm Animation might have more time and effort to put into this, possibly.
Yeah.
So maybe they can make this a little bigger, make this kind of a hopefully a thing that continues
reoccurring
on, because
thing, yeah.
I said, I really liked it. So
I agree.
Yeah, so let's move on to our next story, and that is that Star Wars Return of the Jedi will be back in theaters for the 40th anniversary. So this was announced at Star Wars Celebration during the 40th anniversary panel. They said there that it is going to head back to theaters on April 28th. It will return to select theaters in the US, UK, and other regions for a limited time, welcoming a whole new generation of fans to enjoy a full theatrical presentation of the iconic film for the very first time. So there's a new poster that came out with that, and it's actually just a fantastic poster. I really like it.
I agree.
It's a gorgeous poster, but it is cool because, like you and me, Braxton, we have never been able to, of course, witness this movie in theaters because we were not born. But
2 years shy.
But now this is an opportunity for us to go and sit in the theater and watch it, and I think we probably will.
Yeah.
Because why
absolutely.
not? Because it's
probably, dude. Come on.
I mean, we're definitely
come on. We got to go watch that. What are you talking about?
But this will take place between April 28th through May the 4th. And for you UKers, it'll be April 28th through May the 1st. Oh. So you'll have a little bit of a shorter time span there.
You guys got Celebration. We get
we get a couple more days of being able to go watch it.
Exactly.
So take that.
Yeah. Take that, JB.
Take that, JB.
Well, anyway. So yeah, guys, I would highly encourage you to get out there and check it out, because I know I certainly will. I'm very pumped about this. This is it's not off the topic, but it's off the grand subject, and that is 2 or 3 years ago that they released all the theatrical releases of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And man, I went and watched all of those in the IMAX theater, and it was just, I tell you, it was a phenomenal experience. Again, I was alive whenever they came out in theaters, but again, it was one of those things where it was like, I was young enough that my parents weren't going to go take me to this, type thing. Anyway, it came out 4K. It was awesome.
There's always just something special about getting to witness it in the theater.
Yeah,
it's
really
just
was.
a different experience.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to. One thing I'm not sure on is what version of this they're showing. I assume
That's a good
it's
point. Special edition.
I assume it's not the original. Original.
I doubt it. Yeah, I'm sure it's probably the special edition that has all of George Lucas's little tweaks in it. I know a lot of people are going online about it, like, oh, it better be the original, it better be the actual original theatrical cut.
I don't think they're willing to show that one anymore.
I don't think it's gonna happen, guys. So
yeah.
Anyway, but what I was trying to say though is that I decided to take the leap to buy 3 movie tickets to go watch Lord of the Rings in theater, and it was just a magical experience. It was so awesome to see something like that you've only ever seen in home in such a big context. So I'll certainly be checking it out, and I'm expecting it to give me the same feels. So
For sure.
Encourage you guys to and let us know too. If you guys go watch it, let us know. We'd love to hear about that.
Yes.
So
let us know your experience. What did you wear? What did you eat?
What did you smell like?
What did you smell like?
Never mind, don't tell us that. So last but not least, our news piece for today is that Phase 3 of the High Republic publishing series has been revealed. And so Phase 3 will be titled Trials of the Jedi.
Yes.
So, Drew, what else do we have on that?
Yeah, so they, of course, had a High Republic panel, and it was actually a huge panel. I saw pictures, and I was at the panel, of course, the year before, and it was a decent sized room, but this looked way bigger. So they've really the fans really showed up for it. But one of the biggest things to come out of this panel was that Vernestra Rowe, who played a pretty big role within the first season. She's the apprentice to Stellan Gaios. She is going to be in live action in The Acolyte.
Really?
Yes.
No kidding. I did not know about that.
Yeah, and they brought out the actress who's going to play her, Rebecca Henderson.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Rebecca Henderson will be playing her. Of course, she's going to be much older than what she is in the High Republic books. She's only, again, a young apprentice, but at this point, she's going to be,
older.
She's going to be like over 100, right?
Yeah, you think? Yeah, she be.
But she is not a human, so I'm sure they
get away
age
with
differently.
right.
That's how they get away with it. She's like she looks like a green human, but I don't know what species she is. I don't remember. But anyways, she's a great character. I actually really like her character in Phase 1. And so I'm excited to see her character progress in Phase 3 because of certain things that happened at the end of Phase 1.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to spoil here if you maybe haven't gotten through all of Phase 1 yet. But, I mean, you really should have at this point. But just in case you haven't, I won't say anything. But anyways, going into Phase 3 should be really interesting for her character.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we also got some new book covers of some of the things like Tales of Light and Life, which we have talked about. That's the novel that has it's like an anthology series of a bunch of different stories there, and set in all 3 phases. There's all different phases. They did show some new authors going to be joining the High Republic, and that is Alyssa Wong, who is the writer for the Dr. Aphra comics. So cool. She's going to be joining in on the High Republic. They said Phase 3 will kick off with The Eye of Darkness. And The Eye of Darkness will be the adult novel, November 14th, 2023, written by George Mann, which I am super excited about because George Mann is a terrific author.
Oh, yeah.
He's wrote some really great Star Wars stuff already, And this is kind of his first real big one. I don't think he's had an adult novel yet, but this will be his. But he's kicking things off for Phase 3 in this novel, and I would expect this one to really hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
So really excited about that. And then it's going to be followed by 2 other adult novels to round out that trilogy, which is going to be Temptation of the Force by Tessa Gratton, coming in summer 2024. And then the final novel of Phase 3, which you have to assume is going to officially wrap up everything.
High Republic as we know it.
Is going to be called Trials of the Jedi by Charles Soule, who began everything with the first book, Light of the Jedi. So he'll be wrapping things up with Trials of the Jedi in spring 2025.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting.
I was gonna say, for me personally, I know obviously it's very exciting for you as the big reader for Star Wars stuff, but for me it's exciting because it's kind of a return to form that Phase 1 had, which surprisingly, if you know me, I don't read the Star Wars stuff, which I don't hardly read anything. I read all of the main adult novels in Phase 1 and thoroughly enjoyed my time doing it. Great stories. Don't even ask me the titles of the books, but I do remember liking the second one a lot. Anyway, I'm excited for this to come back and to continue that story and to kind of, like I said, get a kind of return to form for what we saw in Phase 1. So definitely excited to see what they do with that.
Yeah, for sure. And they kind of Phase 2 I've not been a super big fan of, which I think I've said this on the podcast before. I'm not done. I do have the final adult novel still to read, and I might feel a little better about it by the time I finish that. But as of right now, I've been just thoroughly disappointed with what they've had in Phase 2.
Well, it's like even whenever they announced what Phase 2 was, all of us were like scratching our head, like, what? Like why on earth would you go back in time 200 years? Yeah. It's like, why would you go ahead and disconnect from these brand new characters that we've never known about before, and you're going to just go ahead and completely disconnect from them anyway?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird choice, and I think most of us are ready to get back to the characters we started with in the High Republic and really had started to get invested in. And so that's what we're going to do here. But and then they showed us the young adult novels. The first in Phase 3 being Defy the Storm, out in March of 2024. There will also be Tears of the Nameless, which is also going to be George Mann. So he's really busy. Really busy in the third phase. Yeah. And then Into the Light by Claudia Gray, arriving in spring 2025.
Nice.
So then we have the middle grade novels, which we have Escape from Valo, and that's January 30th, 2024 by Daniel Jose Older and Alyssa Wong together. And then we have Beware the Nameless by Zoraida Cordova, and that's summer 2024. And then last, we have A Valiant Vow by Justine Ireland in spring of 2025. So one thing that they said is that, you know, this all is kind of longer gaps in between releases this time. Mm-hmm. For example, in Phase 1 and 2, typically they've released 2 books at the same time, and then another book comes out like a month later. For each wave. Mm-hmm. This one, they all come out at different times. For example, the first wave, it's going to start with The Eye of Darkness, the adult novel, November 14th, 2023. The young adult novel is next on March 12th, 2024. So we're talking multiple months gap there. And then... the middle grade novel was actually before that, on January 20th or January 30th, 2024. So, but still a couple months gap in between each book,
right?
Which I think is actually nice. I think that's kind of nice to space it out like that, and you kind of get a consistent drip, right, of Star Wars there. But they're not like, okay, here's like all 3 books in 1 month, and then you're just trying to catch up. And,
Well, that's a twofold thing that I think is good. A, like you said, you're not trying to just like catch up, and it's not overlapping with one another. You can kind of get excited, anticipate the next one. But secondarily, I think too, this is the end of Phase 3, which is ultimately the end of the whole thing. So yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, at least on their end, right, to stretch it out a little bit, and like I said, not just give everything up front and like, yeah, well, it's done. Here it is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. And then of course, the Marvel High Republic comics will continue through Phase 3. Once again, written by Kevin Scott. The first issue of that will arrive in December 2023, and then they did say though. That before Phase 3 begins, there are still new stories coming to end Phase 2.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Says, which will culminate in the Night of Sorrow. And I don't really know what that means.
Sounds like a bummer.
Well, Night of Sorrow sounds like a bummer, right? But I don't understand what format this story is going to be told in.
Sure.
And it's weird to me that they didn't say.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very odd. And so I'm not sure what that means, but something is going to come called the Night of Sorrows. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, so that was everything that we learned there. Lots of exciting stuff ahead for the High Republic. And they did also mention that, like, this is the end of the publishing, whatever they called it, like project, right? That they've been working on. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's over. The High Republic is over. They're, they're doing more in the High Republic. It's been such a huge hit that there will be more stories told. And it will be interesting to see how exactly they choose to tell more stories in the future in the High Republic.
Right.
But what I will say, I hope we get out of this more than anything else is that return to Star Wars series being told in books like this. Legends used to do it all the time, and then since Disney bought Star Wars, we had not had that until now with the High Republic.
Right.
And so I hope, even though this might be ending, that Disney Publishing is already working on the next one, where they're going to continue to tell an expanded series of books like this did with the High Republic, and it had so much success that I hope that trend continues. And it doesn't have to be in the High Republic; it can be in anything. But just feel like it's a continuous story that you're getting out of an expansion of books.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it'd be good to see what ends up coming up out of that. And for those of you who are interested in the High Republic series, well, there's a lot of cool things to come.
Lots of stuff. Yeah, lots of stuff. So now we're going to jump into our releases. We're not doing rumors because we just had a bajillion stories to tell you guys about. So we're going to go straight into our releases here. And we do have a couple coming up on the 19th, which is next Wednesday. We have the High Republic Adventures, The Nameless Terror, issue number 2, Yoda, issue number 6, Sonostaros, issue number 3, and of course, last but certainly not least, The Mandalorian season finale will be on the Wednesday. Get strapped in and ready for that one.
Whatever may come.
Right? We here at Jedi Eternal are, of course, hoping for some big stuff, hoping to really just, let's be honest, it really needs to hit it out of the park, right? They need to really, really get us pumped and ready with whatever comes in this final episode. Yeah. And you know what? Let's make it 2.5 hours long. Why not?
Why not? Come on. Yeah.
No, it's going to be like,
it's going to be a 29 minute with credits.
Probably. But anyway,
whatever.
Exciting stuff right around the corner. So that's all we got with that. So Braxton, you want to lead us into some discussions, some community discussions. And now it's time for some community discussion.
It's time for community discussion. So anyway, as everybody got me thrown off on that one. As those of you who follow us know, we like to, every time we do a podcast, we like to try to reach out to our community of listeners and have a discussion with you guys. Have a question that we put out there that you guys answer, and then we discuss your answers and our thoughts on all of it here on air. So this week's community discussion is this. Of all the announcements that we had seen at Star Wars Celebration, what are you most excited for and why? So let's just go ahead through them here. Anthony James Johnson says, I think of all the announcements, maybe the Acolyte or the Dawn of the Jedi. I feel like they have the ability to tell the most unrestricted story, as almost everything, save a few Jedi and Acolyte, are entirely new creations. Alex Mason goes to say the Heir to the Empire movie and Dawn of the Jedi. John Stutzman says, I'm excited to see Daisy Ridley return to raise Skywalker, the new Jedi Order. JB says, the Acolyte for me, a story told from the Sith. Oh yes, sign me up. And last but not least, Corey Allen Y says, the Acolyte, a story about the dark side, the main focused on the dark side of the Force, will be most interesting. Also, the potential that the Dawn of the Jedi has, just the thought of it blows my mind. If they do it right, we can see the first Force user, the rise of the Jedi Order, and the fall of the Sith as well. So exciting. I could go on, but not enough space. Corey, I think you echo all of our sentiments. There is a ton to be excited for. Of course, there's most of you guys hit some of the big hitters, those big three movies, right? We got the Dawn of the Jedi, we got the new Jedi Order, and of course we got the kind of quote-unquote Heir to the Empire movie as well. Again, there is so much to be excited for. Yeah, I mean, it is hard to just choose one. Because of the continuation, and this is what me and Andrew kind of already talked about last week, because of the continuation of what we already know and love that's been going on recently with the shows, I think the kind of the Dave Filoni Heir to the Empire-esque movie that's coming out, I think is probably, I won't speak for Andrew, but is probably my most anticipated thing for sure. But yeah, I think there's a lot of great things that could happen in the Dawn of the Jedi movie. You know what I'm saying? I just think there's a lot of opportunity there to tell some very interesting things. And as who said it? I have to go back and check. Oh yeah, Anthony James Johnson said that he is, tell the most unrestricted story, and I completely agree with you. I think that there is so much there, and it is thousands of years right before the Skywalker saga, and so again, it is going to be, and again, I don't want to get too deep into this, but it does fall into that thing of like what makes Star Wars, kind of talked about last week, and when you get so far away from the Skywalker saga and all the characters we know and love, and kind of the typical things you come to expect with Star Wars. When you're thousands of years away from that, it can be very easy to lose touch with what makes Star Wars Star Wars. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling, but I'm excited to see what they do with that and see how they try to keep that thread of Star Wars as we know and love it into a potentially thousands of year old story, right?
Yeah. Do you think the lightsaber is going to have big battery packs?
Well, right. Yeah. It's what do they call that, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's like the originals. So in Legends, right, there was a Dawn of the Jedi type story, and they have lightsabers that they have a big old battery pack and like a cable attached to it. So, it's just escaping me, but I don't know. We'll see.
Because you do have to imagine, with Dawn of the Jedi, we're going so far back. There has to be visual difference, right? Well,
you'd imagine, yeah.
Because the High Republic, it doesn't really change that much.
Proto-saber. It's a proto-saber.
Proto-saber, there you go. Other than, of course, like the it does have the hyperspace lanes and stuff. They've not like figured all that out just yet,
right?
And so we're going even farther back, so maybe that's not even a thing, stuff like that. And then you wonder, I'll be very curious to see how much technology is still utilized in this series of Dawn of the Jedi. Because it's the technology that really makes Star Wars feel like sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
So if they go the route of it's going to be very primitive, then it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. It's not gonna feel like Star Wars very much without the sci-fi feel.
And they got to be careful with that because you're gonna
careful.
get some people mad about that.
But you can still have recognizable alien species, and of course the Force. So there are ways to still recognize it as Star Wars, I guess. But it'll be interesting to see just how far they take it, I guess, with that, because there's nothing saying they won't keep it established in sci-fi, like they still use ships and stuff. There's nothing saying they won't do that. Right. I really don't know what they'll do. Right. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it is difficult to say what will still be available at that point in time. Yeah. But for you though, I mean, what is your most anticipated thing from Star Wars Celebration that they announced?
Oh, it's definitely the Heir to the Empire movie.
Okay, I figured that was the answer, but I didn't want to answer for you.
Yeah, it's it's something I've been predicting for a long time. They're not calling it Heir to the Empire. It may not even end up being called Heir to the Empire, but it is absolutely going to be the canon version of what Heir to the Empire was for Legends. Right. That's what this is going to be, and it's the culmination of the Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett and the Ahsoka series, and really even more than that, it's a culmination of Rebels and even to a extent Clone Wars, and it's leading into so many things, and really you could even look at it as a continuation of the original trilogy, right? It's going to be building off of the blocks of stories that have been established in the original trilogy, and there's room for characters we know and love. I talked about it last week that we're gonna have a Ahsoka, and we're gonna have a Boba Fett, and we're gonna have Mando, and we're gonna have Luke Skywalker, and when you think about it, it's really kind of crazy.
It's a very ambitious project.
Yeah,
sure.
And you're gonna have all of these characters, and so really to me, it's if they do it right, there's not really much more I could be hyped about than that.
Yeah.
You know what I want from this more than anything? What? I'm going to go ahead and say it here, and you guys can write it down, okay? Write it down, put a little note next to it, the time and date when you heard it, and then you can see if I was right or wrong. But what I want from how I envision this movie going is having all of these different groups come together, okay, to fight against Thrawn's empire, okay, which we've already talked about. You're gonna have the bounty hunters, and you're gonna have the underworld, or what do you want to call it. You're gonna have the Mandalorians, and you're gonna have the New Republic, and you're gonna have the Jedi, and blah blah blah. Right? You're gonna have all these different groups that come together. But what I do see it as the Avengers, okay, of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And what
I'm
most hyped about is this idea of them all having like their moment, okay?
Right.
Like in the big showdown, them each having like their moment to shine, and like how cool it could potentially be.
And they kind of like utilize what their special thing is.
Exactly. And utilize whatever, there's going to be a moment where Boba Fett is going to just do something really cool, and then
with his Rancor.
Yeah. Well, possibly.
Yeah.
And then you might have him on his Rancor, and Mandalorian, Mando, or Din, he may be on a Mythosaur.
Maybe.
Who knows?
We'll see.
Actually, it seems like Bo might end up on the Mythosaur. I don't know. We'll see. Somebody is going to be on a Mythosaur.
Listen, okay, I know we're skipping ahead here, but for chapter 8, chapter 24, or whatever, but last episode of Mando season 3, they're on. Well, okay. I just had an idea, and I want to say it, but I'm I'm trying to skip ahead.
We'll talk about it.
Okay, I'll pause it. I will guarantee you I'll forget it.
Write it down. I think I know where you're going with it, but write it down. So
don't talk about my band.
But what I see is like, I want this to have the Luke Skywalker moment that we always wanted in the sequel trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I completely agree.
And we got a cool moment in Mando season 2, but like I want to see him really do something really awesome. And what's interesting to me? I've been thinking about this, and I know we're kind of getting like in this weird. We're not really talking about what we were talking about anymore, but it's we kind of still are. And these movies, the announcements of these movies are still fresh. So I hope you guys probably don't really care if we kind of just expand on this a little more, since it's been another week to sit on it and think about it. And that's why I feel like we can do this. And honestly, I don't really care.
Whoa. He went there.
You can skip ahead if you don't like it, but I think that I've been thinking about it, and we have Ahsoka, right? We have Ahsoka Tano that's going to be in this series, and she's going to obviously be in the movie, and she's, she was trained by Anakin Skywalker.
Right.
She gone through the Clone Wars. She's been a Jedi for a long time, right? And then you have Luke Skywalker, who really has only been a Jedi for what? Not that long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not
it's pretty early on.
Not anything close to
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka.
Yeah.
However, he is a Skywalker, and he is, in the end, he is the reason that the Empire was defeated.
Sure.
Right? I mean, he played a big role in that, and he's considered the hero of the story. He is the hero of Star Wars. Right. Right. I mean, pretty much. I mean, some argue Anakin still ends up being the hero, but I would say Luke Skywalker is considered the hero of Star Wars.
I would say so.
So for me, looking at this movie is going to be interesting, because how do you balance that?
Right. How do you give Ahsoka, who has the seniority, the attention she needs, while also Luke, though, having the junior level of whatever, but being the biggest character? Yeah, I mean, how do you balance that?
How do you balance that? Because you would assume Ahsoka. You would assume Ahsoka can just absolutely kick Luke Skywalker's butt.
You would think so, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And some people might roll over in their grave right now me saying that. I mean, there might be people screaming at me listening to this on their podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that based off experience and everything, and she's been doing it for a long time.
She has a lot of battle experience.
Trained
with his dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? With a Skywalker even, and all this stuff, and so she should be pretty insane at this point, right?
You'd imagine, yeah.
And then you have Luke Skywalker, who, granted, in his big moment in season 2, was just absolutely just destroying.
Yeah.
But he technically, you wouldn't think he would be as good as Ahsoka yet. However, though, he is a Skywalker,
and
as we know,
natural affinity,
the Skywalker bloodline has this strength in the Force that really no one else seems to have. That's what it seems like, right? Even I mean, with Kylo Ren, even, and they seem to have this extra Force power that is untapped with everyone else. So with that, I'm just curious. I'm curious how they're going to play that out. Like, will Ahsoka be better? Will Luke just somehow be better? Are they going to be kind of like equals? I don't know. It's going to be really interesting.
It will be interesting to see if they even like address that. Like if there's some kind of like slightly meta thing, or like where they're kind of like sussing each other out. You know what I'm saying? Like on the battlefield. I don't know. I mean, I doubt it, but it would be interesting to see if they even kind of like innuendically address that. But we'll see.
Or maybe they'll just kind of just ignore it and just have them both just be really awesome,
kicking butt,
which is fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I want Luke to get his big heroic moment. I want that. I want that in this series.
In his prime, I mean, even in like this, maybe not be his prime, but I mean, it's arguable, I guess. But you see what I'm saying? Yeah, because like and not to harp on the same broken string, but it's like we got kind of robbed of that.
We did.
We kind of got robbed of that. So we've seen some good instances of Luke, of course, in his prime in Battlefront. Yeah, Battlefront 2. But anyway, but not live action.
And when we get to this movie, I mean, we don't know who the main characters of this movie will be yet, right? Because even if it's a group of characters, you're still going to have like a main cast, and I would assume the Mandalorian's probably going to be in that, considered part of the main cast. Ahsoka. I would say Luke will not be.
Well, and I was about to say the same thing. I think Luke deserves to be one, but due to kind of the technological limitations of
it's going
what
to be
they're
harder
doing,
to. It's going to be harder to make him like a prominent character in it.
That was my thoughts as well.
Because Mark Hamill is an old man.
That's
basically what it comes down to.
Exactly. And it's a lot of money for them to pour into,
a lot of work.
to changing the voice, to using CGI and all the things that they have to morph
without
his
just
face
completely just recasting. And I don't. And so far they've not shown willingness to do that.
No,
so.
and that's arguable if we even want that. So.
It is very arguable. Yeah. So maybe he'll just get a shining moment within the movie. He's going to be in the movie. He has to be in the movie.
Yeah.
He may not play as big of a role as he did in the Legends Heir to the Empire, which of course he was
very prominent.
He's very prominent in it, but I don't think he was going to be that prominent in this one. But anyways, I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah.
If you're listening, go ahead and just take a few seconds and comment, whether you're commenting on Facebook or commenting on Patreon or commenting on Apple Music, whatever it may be. Just find somewhere to comment to us and tell us who you think is, I guess, really who you think is the stronger Jedi at this point.
Yeah, very curious.
Do you think that it's Ahsoka, or do you think it's Luke Skywalker? Is Ahsoka the better because of her years of experience, or is Luke Skywalker because he has that Skywalker bloodline? We'd be curious to see what you guys think.
But absolutely.
Anyways.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and move on. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your discussion. We absolutely appreciate you guys reaching out to us and answering these questions. Again, we say it every time, but I'll continue to say it because it truly does mean so much to us that we really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk with us and answer these questions, because the interaction with you guys is what really makes the podcast. It's so true, because otherwise it's just me and Andrew talking, which we already do already. So.
And we already do that. So you guys jumping in and talking to us means the world to us, and it keeps us going. It's interactions with you guys, and when you interact with us that we're like, oh, you know what, they do still pay attention.
Yeah, I agree.
We're not alone in this.
Yeah. It does give you some morale booster there. So let's go ahead and move on now to our main topic, and of course that is the review and discussion of Mandalorian Chapter 23, or you can call it Season 3, Episode 7, which again is the penultimate or second to last episode of this season. And this episode is called The Spies. And so, yeah, I mean, there's, I'll just go ahead and, again, we're going to go ahead and say full spoilers, as we always do. And we're just going to jump right into it with our thoughts and jumping into what the contents of the episode. So I will just go ahead and say, of course, as typical fashion of Mandalorian, the second to last episode and the last episode are always the best episodes of the season, almost invariably. And it is following a form of fashion here. Episode 7 was a very good episode. There's things that maybe you could argue like it could have been better, whatever, handled differently, whatever, right? But it was a really good episode. And I hate to be the guy, but I'll just say, like, going from episode 6 to episode 7, it's just kind of laughable, the difference. But anyway, right?
Yeah. This season has just been a mystery to me. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what their discussions were, but I watched this episode and I immediately was like, you know what? We could have had one episode that kind of got us where we needed to be with the whole Mandalorian being united. Maybe 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Okay. And to get us where we needed to be with them. And this could have been like the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
Because this is finally getting to this is now we're finally kind of where we left off after season 2. Like, now it feels like this is actually part of the story, really part of the story of the Mandalorian that we've gotten. But for some weird, odd reason, we spent 6 episodes telling the story of the Mandalorians uniting, and most of that wasn't even actually spent on that. It was just like parts of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such
weird. It was weird. It was very weird.
Weird pacing this season. weird creative decisions throughout. But last week's episode was such a joke, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But wow.
Such a return to fashion, right?
Yeah, there's such a return to form in this episode. This is what I'm talking about. This is The Mandalorian.
Oh yeah,
this is what I love.
Absolutely.
And this,
so let me, I mean, and just again, we're kind of jumping all over the place, right? But I do want to just go ahead and say this to further your point that you was just talking about. You know, it just felt so disjointed. You know, like where's this going? There is no, and I said this either last episode or the episode before. It just feels like there's no direction. There's just no specific thing that they're trying to do, and but what's funny is again, spoiler alert, and we're jumping around, but of course we get the return of Moff Gideon, right? And come to find out, all of this time, Moff Gideon has been kind of the pseudo leader, but kind of not. He's like or a member of like this Imperial Council that is still kind of underground and exists and stuff, but just working its way up. And but the way they explained it within this episode was that all this time, right? All this time he's been working in the background, trying to separate the Mandalorians, trying to cause discord throughout the galaxy, and trying to undermine things so that he can rise to power again, right? But it's just funny because it's like, if that's true, why did we not hear about this sooner than we did, right? Why did they wait until the second to last episode to tell us that was the case? Because here's the thing, you want to have a big drop, right? You want to have a big drop that it's Gideon again. And you can argue whether that was a good or bad decision. You know, that's, I'm not going to make that comment here now, because I do think it's a good character, but you know, it's kind of like, oh, Palpatine returned again somehow. But anyway, but long story short, what I'm trying to make is that, here's the thing: you don't want to spoil the drop. I get that, but throughout the season, what you could do is say, like, there's someone doing this, and then there's clearly something happening. There's somebody that's manipulating things in the background, and letting the audience know in the most non-meta way possible that there's something happening, that we're going to have to get our morale together, right? Get our troops together, try to get the Mandalorians together to fight whoever this is. And then surprise, episode 7, it's Gideon, and then we get what we got in this episode. Right. Again, it's just like, it was just like a weird, like, you know, rip the blanket off, you know, push you into cold water, like, whoa, what just happened? You know, where did this come from? You know?
Yeah. Now, I will say I was excited for the appearance of the Shadow Council. Now, the Shadow Council was originally established in the Aftermath trilogy. The Aftermath trilogy created the Shadow Council, and within that, Brendel Hux, who is the father of Hux from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, General Hux. Yeah,
he's like the last remaining one, I think, by the end of the Aftermath series. I think he may be one of the only ones left, and so that kind of establishes his role in creating the First Order. So what we're seeing here at this point, and he's still there, being Brendel Hux being played by Gleason from or wait, is that right? Gleason's his last name?
I don't know.
Anyway, it's the guy who plays General Hux in the sequel trilogy.
I think it's Gleason, yeah.
It is his brother that is playing his father.
It's like kind of insulting to the brother, but you know, whatever.
So he's in this, so that's cool. And so, but what we're seeing here is the beginning of the First Order. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
Seeing this, you know, these last remaining officers of the Empire. They're kind of coming together, and they're planning, and we see them talk about Project Necromancer, which they don't necessarily say it, but I feel pretty safe to say that is them working on bringing back Palpatine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's if you ever had any wonders if they were going, and we've talked about this before, if they were going to ignore the sequel trilogy or they were going to retcon the sequel trilogy, Here's your answer. No, they're not going
No,
to. They're actually going to do everything they can to bridge it to the sequel trilogy, to make you appreciate the sequel trilogy more, to accept the sequel trilogy. I think that is their goal. I think I think Dave Filoni, most likely, he's sitting there saying, you know what, these are the sequel trilogy is where we're headed.
It is what it is, right?
So just like what I did with the Clone Wars for the prequels, I'm going to try to do for the sequels. I think that's what in his head, what he's trying to do here.
Yeah, because whether you love it or not, it is the movies that we got. It is the movies that we got. So
right, and it's the inevitable future. So what can we put into our series to expand on that and to enhance that? And I think that's what they're trying to do here. And so this is a way to start to see some of those pieces starting to fall together. Of course, we still are a long ways away before we reach the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot that has to happen in order to get us to where we're at in the sequel trilogy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. To get into the episode itself, we see what's her face. I can't even remember her name, but the traitor girl that we always knew that was not loyal to the New Republic. But she meets kind of in the back alleys with a probe droid, and we see that first. That first reveal of Gideon through a hologram. But what I wanted to point out was that when we first see him walking towards the Shadow Council, it was it was just so cool that we get to see these red force fields as he's walking, like slowly open up and dissipate. And as he's continuing, it just reminded me of Episode 1, Phantom Menace, and when they're fighting in those corridors, just kind of reminded me of that. But we also get the first look at these new stormtroopers, or leading towards some sort of First Order trooper or whatever. But you can tell that they're very different. You can tell they're kind of a little more elite. So yeah, it was very cool to see that, of course, and like I said, then as we just talked about the discussions of the Shadow Council. Now, within that, we do hear them talking about how, some of them were disagreeing. Some of them said that we need to get a big show of power out there to show that we're back in business and create fear. And if there's any Imperial loyalists, that they come back to the fold, so to speak, and so they get some support. And then some of them were saying that no, we need to stay underground and in the shadows and stuff. And make it look like we're just, warlords and not an actual Imperial resurgence to stay under the radar. And then, of course, like I said, we hear about the return of Thrawn from, I can't remember who was saying that necessarily off the top of my head, but it was very cool to see.
I think it was Paleon.
It was Paleon, yeah.
And Paleon, again, is another Legends character that has come back. He was a prominent character in the Thrawn books because he's kind of like a... he was sort of like a right-hand man to Thrawn in a sense. Yeah. And so it's interesting to see him back, and I think we're going to see a lot more of him moving forward.
This is just a slight offshoot here, but I'm so thankful for what Dave Filoni coupled with Jon Favreau have done for Star Wars. It was very regrettable back in 2012 or 2014 or whatever it was, whenever Disney took over and just basically retconned all of the Legends. Yeah. There was a lot of us, excuse me, I was a little peaky there. There's a lot of us who have, read a lot of the Legends and has this very specific story of what happens after the saga, right? And what happens before the saga and all this stuff. And anyway, long story short, obviously the way Disney took this, we can't have the story that we used to have. But what I really appreciate is that Dave, along with John, have been slowly reintroducing a lot of these Legends elements, right? And so I really respect that.
Yeah, and they've been making it work within the current canon,
exactly,
however that they can. Yeah, new twists on familiar things, right? So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so like I said, we hear Paleon talking about Thrawn, and then of course Gideon kind of comes in and is like, "Listen, I don't care about Thrawn. Where's Thrawn at right now? Where has he been? When we tried to take over, basically in season 2, right?" And he says, I'm basically taking over. I'm not allowing Thrawn to be this legend that everybody talks about. Anyway, so they agree that, so the last thing was that, of course, there was news that the Mandalorians were starting to band together back again and become try to bring back the former glory of Mandalore. So they're binding together and then going back to Mandalore to regain their home world. And they say, well, that could put a hamper on our progress. And at first we was kind of like, why is that a thing, right? Why would that be an issue? But basically they said, hey, we're just gonna have to go in and destroy these guys. So they agree, but what we see though right after that, of course, is the Mandalorians. They're taking their fleet off of Navarro and heading towards Mandalore. And it's just so cool to see all these Mandalorians together in this huge fleet heading back to Mandalore. It's really cool.
Yeah,
very cool to see that. But anyway, did you have something to say?
No.
Oh, well, you looked at me.
No. I was just listening.
My apologies.
I was just listening intently.
I appreciate that. So basically, as they're going, they're saying we need to get some people on the ground to search for the Great Forge, and so there's several of them that get selected. The armorer goes, of course, Din and Bo-Katan goes. Of course, we got Paz Vizsla goes, and
now actually. The Grogu thing's already happened at this point, right? I think we should talk about the Grogu.
That's true. Yeah. Part of me is wanting to skip over that.
Oh, no, we're talking about it. So Grogu is given... Well,
this is before they leave Navarro.
Before they leave Navarro. And Carl Weathers, he's...
Carl.
He's gotten the Anzelians to go ahead and finish the IG-11, who is now IG-12.
Yeah.
And now he is remote controlled.
Mm-hmm.
And so
stripped of all of his everything but his motor functions.
So Grogu can sit in there, and I like when the Zelen gets out and he's like, "Bad baby, oh, it's squeezy."
It's so stupid, and I love it.
Yeah, and I love it so much.
Bad baby.
You do that way too well.
Thank you so much.
You little Anzel in you.
But yeah, it was that was cute. But anyway, and so Grogu gets in there, and now what we have here, and I know you're not super big on this, him being in it. And
I'll preface. I was just say I didn't know how to feel about it. I didn't know how to feel.
And what
about
was
it.
funny is he immediately starts spamming the no button.
No. Yes,
and just goes to further that Grogu is such a little punk.
Little child
he's
punk.
such a little punk, and I love it. But
and now he has this stinking mech suit that he can cause havoc with. Now.
And Grogu, and then Din, of course, is like, no, and Grogu's just totally ignoring him and just keeps spamming no,
oh boy!
And then it shows them walking later, and he's still just except he's hitting
yes.
He was hitting yes at that point. Yes, just over and over.
So stupid. And then he immediately sees something he wants to eat, so he just goes over there and starts eating it, taking it from people, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
And then Din's having to find money to. Anyways, I thought all that was fun. I liked it.
Yeah.
But, sorry, I just dropped my phone.
Wow.
I thought all that was pretty fun. But what I think is actually really great about this, really smart about this, is what they are doing here. I think more than anything is they're creating a way for Grogu to be part of the story, but not always be limited by the fact that he's either going to go really slow or he's stuck in his little pod thing.
Yeah.
But putting him in this essentially a mech suit, he's going to be able to keep up with the rest of the gang. They can do all kinds of crazy stuff, and he can be right there in the action and it not cause we can't do this because Grogu's, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's the main purpose of why they've chosen to do this.
Yeah, it makes sense.
For that, I think it does make sense so that we can continue to have Grogu along for the ride, but not necessarily be limited by that. And what's also cool is I think we have no doubt he's going to have to step in and help out next episode, right? For the finale.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that he is the one that actually ends up saving Mando.
To skip ahead, right? Mando gets captured, and usually it's Mando protecting Grogu, right? But now now that he's got his Godzilla 3000 suit on, throw back to anyone who knows what that is. Shout out to anyone who knows what that is. Anyway, But yeah, he's gonna have to basically go save him now. So it'll be interesting to see that. So anyway, so directly after the IG-12 debacle, that's when they determine, hey, who's gonna go on the surface and stuff, and that's what they decide. So they leave to go to Mandalore, and so they get to the surface. And what's really interesting is like almost immediately as they hit the surface, we see like this kind of very large ship, land ship, that comes up to them, and they're not sure what it is at first, but then slowly but surely, we hear a voice saying like, is that Lady Bo-Katan Kryze? And she's like, yes, it is. And all of a sudden, like jetpacks, and they realize it's Mandalorian survivors from the Siege of Mandalore. So that was really cool. I mean, it was really interesting to see kind of these really ragged, frazzled Mandalorians. They got their armor on, but they have like rags draped over them and like cloaks and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of interesting to see. Now, I will say it was very convenient that they just happened to be at that one spot that they landed, and they showed up at the right time. So either that was just like kind of goofy writing, or it's a omen for the future. We'll see. I don't know because it just seemed very convenient that they showed up just the right time that they landed. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that was very cool. And they talked about how they're still loyal to Bo-Katan, and knew that they would eventually come back for them, and all that kind of stuff. So what they realize, of course, is that there's a lot of sick among them. So the armorer decides to take those back to the sick back to the main fleet for treatment. So they said, for the rest of you who are well enough, please come with us to help search for the Great Forge. And they said, well, we'll do you one better. We know exactly where it's at. So they're on their way, making their way slowly to that, of course. And
I do have to say, I like the part they're in that, they're in their weird ship thing, which I couldn't help but get callbacks to Rebels when they found Rex and the other clones, and they were out in the desert. I was really giving me callbacks to that when I saw that thing. But anyways,
it kind of is, yeah.
But when they were all in there and they get in that fight,
yeah. So Paz Vizsla and Axe Wolf, or whatever his name is, they get into an argument.
And I love the part where they're like, well, there's nothing. Mando's like, should I step in? And Bo's like, there's nothing we can.
Yeah, neither side can do that.
So they're just watching, and it's getting pretty intense. And then all of a sudden, Grogu comes in and
with his mech suit,
and stops it.
Yeah,
and I think that is kind of an important moment there.
Well,
and then she's like, did you teach him that or?
Is
that what she said?
Well, so she said, you taught your apprentice well.
Yeah,
and he said, well, I didn't teach him
and
that.
He's like, he didn't learn that from me.
Yeah.
and I thought that was pretty interesting.
So there's two very cool things about that I want to mention. I think that's kind of a scene that they're trying to demonstrate and show that Grogu's capable of doing something now. That it may not be big, but he's able to do something now to stop these two from fighting. But secondarily, I thought it was actually kind of a cool callback. He said, you taught your apprentice well. Well, he didn't learn that from me. Well, who did he learn it from? And I think it was kind of cool, reminiscent back to his training with Luke. And because that stopping the fighing and being a mediator is very Jedi-like.
Very Jedi.
I thought that was kind of
cool.
Yeah,
and I kind of took it like that as well. And I also kind of took it comedic as well too, because Mando saying you didn't learn that from me. He gets in a fight with Jawas and shoots out his flames. I still love that from the first season much. When they're all just fighting, arguing and all of a sudden he just shoots fire out of his arm. He's came a long way though.
He's come a long way.
But I think that with Grogu here, we're seeing, I think a whole nother side to it is like, the Mandalorians are all so stuck in their traditions and stuff. So they're like, we can't do anything here. But Grogu doesn't care about that, right? But he sees that, you both, it would be stupid for one of you to die right now because of this. Yeah. And so he kind of steps in and he's showing there is actually, you can do something.
Sure.
Right? You could do something. And I think that's kind of what, this new way of thinking that some of them are having a hard time adapting to, but Grogu has no issue showing.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
anyway.
Very cool. So anyway, moving on here. So as they're, this kind of gets resolved, and as they're, heading towards the Great Forge, all of a sudden, like this random monster just pops up out of nowhere and absolutely just obliterates their land ship. And so, which drives them into the caves, right?
Which there was absolutely like no purpose in that.
No reason for this.
In that thing, other than like, I mean, I guess it was cool looking. I don't know.
Well, and so again, I feel like it's very convenient that this happened because again, it just perfectly happened that it blew up their land ship and stopped them from going to where they wanted to go and had to make them go through the caves, which ultimately led them to where they needed to be, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's kind of convenient, but so anyway, they blow up and they're trying to escape from this beast, and so they get into these caves or whatever. And as they're making their way through these caves, what's very interesting, right, is that as they make their way through these caves, it becomes less and less cave-like, and it gets more technological, right? Like you start seeing wall panels, and you start seeing some hallways and stuff. And like, what is going on? And so I'm thinking my pacing is correct here when I say that they're walking through, and all of a sudden they get attacked, right? Oh yeah, because they see some jetpacks in the distance. They're like, oh, it's more Mandalorians! Hooray, more survivors! And
Yeah.
so they start getting fired upon, and lo and behold, it's the new troopers that was commissioned by Gideon, and come to find out, they're very heavily based after Mandalorians, and they got Beskar armor, they got jetpacks, and they got all that good stuff. So they're fighting for a little bit, and so at this point, I'm like, well, this is really convenient. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just so happens that the last scene, Gideon decides that they need to go fight the Mandalorians, and then all of a sudden, they just happen to be in the caves of Mandalore all of a sudden with them. Mm-hmm. Well, it gets resolved because directly after this battle, they run through these caves, and all of a sudden now it's fully technological. It looks like the Empire, like an Imperial base.
Yeah.
And, they get through this hangar bay, and right as they go through the hangar bay, these doors shut and it blocks off all of the Mandos, except for Din Djarin. But basically what you see, though, right, is TIE fighters, TIE bombers.
Of course, and then what does Din do?
Wow, I'm not sure what you're going for on that one.
What's he do as soon as he gets
So they start fighting, and they boom, flamethrower.
Flamethrower.
You're right.
He always results to the flamethrower.
Dude,
immediately, all of a sudden, he's just like spraying the flamethrower everywhere.
And if I had a flamethrower, I absolutely would be.
I know,
using
it's just funny because it just seems like that's always his answer.
Now, here's what this is what I was like saying to my TV. I'm like, what, dude? Where's your fireflies at, or whatever they call them, right? The dragonflies or the little wrist rockets that he has. Like,
oh, yeah,
bro,
yeah.
We haven't seen that at all, except for like the very beginning of season 2, I believe. And I'm like, dude, those things are deadly. Where are those at? And apparently they don't exist. I know they made mention when he used them that were like, oh, they're very rare.
I don't know that he has any anymore.
I don't care. Anyway,
So what else? Hold on.
Come on.
I had it. Oh, I forgot. Go ahead. I'll remember in a second.
Oh boy. Anyway. So basically, what my point was with all of that is that, come to find out, the reason it was an issue, the reason they have to fight the Mandalorians, and it wasn't convenient that they just happened to show up. It was because they were already there. Because Gideon's base that he ran to was on Mandalore this whole time. That was a pretty stinking cool
and so
announcement.
Basically they've been underground there mining Beskar, and then also I think they were telling the lies of that it was uninhabitable, right, and kind of spreading the rumor, and so keeping people away from there. And so the fact that
makes perfect sense, right?
The fact that they had planned to come back now makes them a very big threat. That the Mandalorians wanted to come back,
right?
So, anyways, it's pretty interesting, and I think that we have Gideon here now in his own Dark Trooper suit, forged with Beskar.
Yeah,
but let me ask you something. Or go ahead.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you something about that, though. Do you think that they know how to forge it correctly.
That wasn't what I was about to say, but that was something I was going to say in later on. But yeah, that's a great question, because again, within Mandalorian society, it's almost like a religious position, but the armor, right? Like there's a specific person who makes the armor, so it makes sense that there's like a very specific way that it's made, right?
And it was in an earlier episode that the armor talks about how it's important to use a certain amount of drops of the living water or whatever in it,
because it'd be like brittle or something.
Yeah, and so I wonder if kind of one of the things that's going to happen in the finale is that his armor is not going to be as indestructible as he thinks because they don't know the secret, the secret recipe, so to speak,
the secret formula.
And something else that makes me wonder about that is there is a shard of Beskar
inside of that
ship.
Yeah, which it makes sense, of course. You're like, well, who was the Mandalorians that rescued him? Well, it was the troopers that he made. Yeah, but exactly. A shard, it means it broke off. So, which
anyway, shouldn't really happen.
Yeah, exactly. What I was going to say earlier, though, is did you notice something interesting with his helmet?
It looked like it had the spikes from Death Watch.
Which Death Watch got them because of Darth Maul.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. I'm not sure what that was about.
Yeah, I assume that's kind of coincidence, and this is maybe kind of a callback, but I don't think it's intentional.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but as soon as I saw it, I'm like, dude, that looks like the Death Watch helmet. It had like the Darth Maul spikes on top.
I saw that.
That's pretty sick. So of course, like they capture Din Djarin, but in efforts to get out, and because they're saying like, well, those of you who are trapped in there, we're just gonna kill them, whatever. But all of a sudden, of course, like, why didn't you do it before? But Bo-Katan finally breaks out the Darksaber and cuts a hole in the the doors or whatever, and so the Mandalorians are escaping back out into the cave system essentially. But Paz Vizsla, right? He's like, listen, there's too many of them. We're not going to make it. I'm going to stay here and bring up the rear guard and just, sacrifice myself, basically. So it was kind of an emotional moment because it was kind of a cool full circle moment where basically Paz was always kind of like, yeah, he was for his coven, but at the same time, like he was very kind of like selfish and for his own reasons. And now it's like full circle of now he's accepted Mando, they're friends, and now he's sacrificing himself to save the
Yeah, I will say there's a missed opportunity here for his son to have kind of a moment.
Yeah.
Because his son Ragnar is like, has been fairly prominent in this season. Right? Yeah. They've shown him multiple times. Different things have happened with him. And I felt like they could have had a Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon kind of moment here where he's watching from the window and seeing like his dad get taken out, or something to kind of, because you assume there's going to be more of his son to show.
Yeah, they showed him for a reason, right?
Well, and also they probably want to continue that bloodline because he is a well, I guess he's not actually.
I think they're not technically related though, right?
They're not. But he still he still carries the name of, and that name is very significant in Mandalorian culture.
Yeah.
So I think that it's just, I felt like it was a missed opportunity there to kind of grow that character and make you kind of feel something for that character.
Oh, I agree, 100%.
But anyway, that's kind of a minor complaint. But the actual fight here is phenomenal.
Oh, it's great.
He's
going to town.
He's going to town on all of them to the point where his gun
literally starts melting,
and then he throws it down, and then he's just fighting with
his vibroblade, and stuff,
and takes them all out. Right,
he's like shoving them off the
so
the side of the ledge.
He defeats them all, and you can see he's just worn out, and he's standing there, and you're like, oh, he did it. Right?
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
Nope.
But then all of a sudden, what shows up next?
The Praetorian
Guard.
Three of the suckers.
So we heard Moff Gideon make reference to them, right?
Yeah.
Earlier in the episode, to the Shadow Council. He said
he was requesting them.
He requested 3 of them. And so immediately, I'm like, oh, okay. The Praetorian Guards already exist?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And that was one thing I said to you, is like, it was kind of weird because it's like, where are these guys at? You know what I'm saying? Like, are they just on standby somewhere? You
So
know,
my
it's like-
assumption would be, that they are, the best of the best that they have, and they're using them to guard their most important people. Right?
Yeah.
So they're kind of like the bodyguards of the most important people. Now, with the Emperor had the Royal Guard,
Right.
and you assume that most of the Royal Guard died with the Emperor, right? They all,
Yeah.
I assume most of them died when he died, when he sort of died.
Yeah, whatever it was.
So, but however, there could have been more Royal Guard somewhere else. So maybe some of the Royal Guard transitioned into this new role.
Who knows?
But no matter what the story is there, one thing is for sure, they are a serious threat.
They're kick butt.
Because, man, this was so cool. I absolutely loved this
Yeah.
because they showed they are a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and I was gonna tell you,
Yeah.
I was like, obviously he was tired, Paz was, and stuff like that. He just fought like 20 guys and stuff. I'm like, man, I wish he could have took down just at least one of them. You know
or
what I'm
at
saying?
least like injured one of them or something. But
that just goes to
no,
show how tough they are.
he
you
got
know?
spanked.
I mean, just like every move, it was like Anakin with the younglings. Every move that he would make, he would literally they just counter and just attack, counter and attack.
Yeah,
it was
and
crazy.
they just kept stabbing him.
Oh, it was so sad, but yeah,
But the way they moved everything, it was just menacing. It was
a cool scene.
It was really cool. I liked
cool.
it. And clearly they are not. So in by the time of the sequel trilogy, each one has a very unique identity. The Praetorian Guards each have like unique weapons. They each have a unique look to their armor. So there's like some individuality there, even though they're all Praetorian Guards. Here,
Right.
they're all wearing the same thing. They're all using the same weapon, I believe, right?
I thought there was a slight difference.
Was
yeah,
there?
yeah, because one has like a staff. I'm looking at the picture.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. One had a different weapon.
But
Did the other two have the same weapon then? Maybe I need to go back and watch it again.
I'll show you this screenshot.
Oh, do you have a
here.
screenshot? Let's see.
So it looks like two of them have like a staff, but they look like slightly different, and then the other one has like a sword.
Okay, so they do still have a little bit of.
It's similar, but you can
Yeah,
tell that
yeah,
they're
yeah.
kind of branching out maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
you know?
Okay. So, yeah, I would love to know more about these characters and how they come to be and that kind of thing. But yeah, clearly
was
they're
awesome,
they're a threat, and I think we'll see more of them next week.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
And I'm
definitely.
really excited to see who gets to face them and what happens there because that could be really cool.
Right. Right.
But super excited to see that. And here's the thing: any of you who are sequel lovers, I mean, I would assume you were shouting from the rooftops because
Right.
this seeing the Praetorian Guards here is one of the most sequel affirming
Oh yeah.
things we have gotten
Yeah.
since the
yeah.
sequels. Like
Yeah.
this right here, seeing those Praetorian Guards, obviously with the red and which of that was the Royal Guard too, but the styling of their armor and the
And
weapons,
the certain
stuff,
weapons they have.
they're
yeah.
they're clearly heading that direction already, and seeing it visually and everything. It was a cool moment even for me. I mean,
Oh,
I thought it was
yeah.
really cool,
yeah.
and I cannot wait to see what they do with it.
Yeah. So let's when we on our social media, what I'm trying to say, basically, Drew, you had posted, it's like, hey, everybody, let us know your thoughts. So we actually had two comments. Just to throw it out there, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
So Corey Allen Wise says, loved this episode. It was everything this season needed. Love the armor design for the stormtroopers. I did think Mando was going to die for a minute and was sweating bullets. LOL. Great episode. Yeah, absolutely, Corey. Totally understand that. JB says, how good was Moff Gideon's armor? Even though he was so wrong, it was so right. Haha. And gutted about my man Paz Vizsla. He was an animal. So excited to hear your thoughts on the episode. Don't think I can contain myself for next week. So, yeah, I mean, I guess we're all on the same page. It was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. And there's a lot of really cool things, like we both said, that's leading up for the next episode. This was what I was going to say earlier, but I this is kind of an offshoot, but I'm just going to make an interesting prediction, and we'll see if this is true or not. But in episode 8, very, very slight chance that, there's going to be this big battle, right? And they're trying to rescue Din and stuff like that. And the mythosaur is going to come and aid them and help defeat Gideon. Now, it might not be a direct thing like someone's riding it. I'm not going to say something like that, but when they're around, they're in Mandalore and they've already shown the mythosaur.
You have to remember that Bo, she knows there's a mythosaur.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So there is a chance that she's thinking, I got to have something
big,
big, and I need it now.
Because they got ties.
And she could very well, with the Darksaber in hand, go and try to essentially, take control of, or gain the respect, or however it works, of the mythosaur.
Or of course, Grogu going to be there, use not mind control, but use the Force to kind of communicate with
We've seen him do that before with the Rancor.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like a collaboration there. That's an interesting point. Yeah. I personally think it would be an absolute tragedy to not get the mythosaur in this finale, because you can't tease it like that and
you can't show it and then
and have no follow-up.
Yeah.
I think there has to be the payoff, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I think that we get the mythosaur in some capacity,
right?
Again, not sure exactly how to play into it, but you do imagine it will involve Bo-Katan, Grogu, both something. A couple other things I wanted to bring up to you to kind of speculate, hear your thoughts on as we head into the finale next week. Do you think we see Thrawn in the finale?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. We was talking before the episode, and one thing I told you, I was like, how interesting would it be is that actually something happens where Gideon starts winning, and like all of this is like starting to go to pot, so to speak, and Paz is now dead, Din is captured, and Gideon is just on top, and you're like, how in the world is this going to end season 3? But what would be interesting if something happened where Thrawn doesn't even care about these people, but what he does care about is that Gideon's like talking bad about him and said that he's the leader and stuff, and Thrawn comes in and just kills Gideon, just straight up just murks him, or maybe keeps him, what I'm saying, and for his own uses later on for whatever that might be, but just completely dismantling him in one way or another and just being like, here's Thrawn, everybody, this is his entrance, and now going into the Ahsoka series, like he's already a prominent threat, or I don't know. So it's a great question. I think that would be a very bold choice if they did that. Yeah. I
think there is a very good chance we see Thrawn somehow, some way, even if it's just like a tease at the very end.
Yeah.
Of like what's
which
to come.
That could be very much
because we know
it.
Ahsoka. Yeah. He's gonna have a prominent role in Ahsoka.
Right.
So I think it would be great to have some kind of tease here, but I'm not gonna completely hold out hope on that, because I can also see them saving it completely for Ahsoka,
because it's kind of her thing.
So I could see that. However, they did give a very, I think, important line here that we have to keep in mind, and that was that our Paleon says to Gideon at the Shadow Council that our one hope for success relies upon the secrecy of Thrawn's return.
Yeah.
So I think no matter what, somehow the secrecy of Thrawn's return is ruined here.
Yeah.
I think somehow they find out about Thrawn's return, which will then set into motion
the events that
we're getting next in Ahsoka and everything else. Because again, they said that it relies on that, and so maybe Gideon reveals it before he dies or something. I think I would find it surprising if Gideon continues to survive after this.
Yeah,
I agree. He's had too many chances at this point,
right.
But
he's trying to be on top so hard.
And now that Thrawn is right around the corner, it's like now Gideon doesn't really matter.
Be there. Yeah.
Because back in season 1, as far as we knew, Gideon could have been the one. We didn't know much about anyone else. Now we know he's just small part of something much larger,
right?
And we know Thrawn is actually the leader they're waiting on, and he's returning,
right?
But like you said, maybe his return conveniently happens in the midst of this final episode, and so then it kind of
shows his maybe this is not the right word, maybe I shouldn't even say it, but magnanimity, like his magnanimous. Like he's big. He's like just to show how powerful and how big he is and how much he doesn't care about this. Like, these people aren't a threat to him. Is that again amidst this battle, he just comes in, breaks it up, kills or disables Gideon, and just like, all right, I'm the leader, I'm out, and then just leaves. You know
I think
saying?
what could also play really well here is how you introduce Thrawn is by Gideon losing and then essentially retreating like a puppy, and then Thrawn basically being like, "What happened? How did that? Blah blah blah," and then kills him.
Yeah,
it kills him basically like, "You failed me."
Yeah.
Whatever, kills him, and then that just kind of shows like, oh, he's the bigger threat here. Just like especially to people who don't really know what Thrawn is.
Right. Exactly.
Anyways, so what's your final answer? Do you think Thrawn's going to make an appearance or not?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to
say
say
yes?
yes. I
Okay.
don't know what capacity, but I do think that he's going to have something. And the reason I say this, and for those of you who don't know this, because this wasn't something we've reported on up as until yet, so they released a Ahsoka trailer, right, that we got to watch. But in the panel itself, they had a secret, like
you know what? Yeah,
extended trailer.
We didn't. We should have put that.
Probably
in
for the news,
We should have
right?
put that in our news, but
Yeah.
that one passed over us. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some cool extra things in there. Like, for instance, we did get to see Sabine wielding a green lightsaber, which we assume is probably Ezra's. But anyway, but what I'm getting at is that we actually do see Thrawn, his face.
Right.
So we got to see him briefly in that. So my point is it is interesting that the release of this extra trailer happens in conjunction with the ending of this new Mando episode. And again, we all know that it's all connected. Yes, we know that Ahsoka and Thrawn, like, they're kind of the coupled together, but we do know that the Mando series is connected to this. It is going to be a part of this greater event movie now, not the series, but
it would line up well, right?
Yeah, so I think that I'm just going to say yes. Again, I do not know the capacity of which it's going to happen, but I do say that it will happen. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that, and then maybe it's just wishful thinking, but I do think that it would be nice to see a glimpse of him, if nothing else, even if it's the very, very last thing. It just shows his face, like it shows like a ship heading into the area or something, and then it zooms in and there he is or something.
Yeah. Or I don't want it to be this, but it could even just be like Gideon loses and Thrawn as a hologram comes up, and it's
and it needs to be more than a hologram.
I agree that it does need to be.
A hologram would just, I think, would lessen. It would not be as, it would not make it as important as it should be.
Sure. And for those people in the camp, though, that he shouldn't be in this, it could be a good intermediary thing of like, anyway. Yeah, again, I'm not saying I want it to be that. I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Right. And then another thing that's been going around about the finale is there has been talk that Brendan Wayne, who is basically, I mean, I think he's more the Mandalorian than Pedro is, honestly. I think he's actually the one that's
he's the body.
He's in the suit most of the time. I think like a large majority of the time. He said that he had made a post saying that, like, prepare yourself for this one. Like it's the finale is really gonna. It's like
you're not gonna be able to handle this emotionally or something like that. Yeah.
Something like kind of like saying like something is really gonna break everyone's heart. Well, of course, people started freaking out, and then he deleted it. It's gone.
Yeah.
And so that everyone thought that was really interesting, right? People were reporting on it and what that could mean. And so a lot of people have started to speculate that Din Djarin is not going to make it through the finale. They think he's going to die.
Yeah.
Because, and I think a lot of that is because they've made such an importance with Bo Katan at this point, that they think that she's pretty much she's kind of the main character, and that Din Djarin will die. And I want to go ahead and say I do not think this will happen.
Right.
But I did want to bring that up because I've seen a lot of people talking about it. I do not think Din will die. If Din dies, I will be furious. Okay.
Right.
I will be absolutely furious. Nothing else cool that happens in the episode will no longer matter. I will be so mad. But then Favreau had said that he thinks people are going to be overjoyed with the finale and cheering, and he says he thinks people are literally going to be cheering during this episode.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's what the Mythosaur's coming, man.
So Mythosaur for sure, right? But I don't think Din is going to die. But I did want to bring it up because a lot of people have been talking about it. Do you think there's any chance of that?
Of him dying?
Yeah.
A chance. Could there be a chance? Sure. Could there be a chance? But I genuinely don't think it's going to happen. I just think he's too integral into the Mandalorian image, you know what I'm saying, and of the show. Okay, yes, in this season, have they been trying to destabilize what the Mandalorian is? Sure. But we're only just now, like an episode or two ago, talking about that. I think it would be crazy if they're trying to, again, destabilize who the Mandalorian is, and then all of a sudden just straight up kill Din Djarin off. I think, again, at this point, it's too early in this destabilization for them to just straight up take Din Djarin out. I think it would make too many people mad, and I think it would disconnect a lot of people from this show as it is. So I think, no, it's not going to happen. But just my opinion. Just my opinion.
Yeah, and one last question. Do you think there's any chance of seeing any of the other cameo characters we kind of are used to seeing now in Mando, such as Boba Fett or Ahsoka or even Luke Skywalker? Do you think there's any chance of seeing any of them in the finale?
Well, yeah. I'm kind of like split in my mind on that answer, because one part of me wants to say yes, it's a possibility, because if Jon Favreau is like, everyone's going to be standing up and cheering, I can see something this drastic of Mando, or Din Djarin, should I say, being captured and stuff. It would require some external force to come in. But I would say, though, that kind of undermines the intention of this season, which is all the Mandalorians coming together and creating this new strong Mandalorian force, because they're not divided. And so it feels like
in other people,
it feels like the rescue would need to be in-house, if you know what I mean.
I think the most likely would be Boba Fett.
Well, okay, that's a good point.
If you were to bring in anyone, I think it would be Boba Fett. I do not think we see Ahsoka or Luke Skywalker in this one. Maybe a small chance of Ahsoka, again, if they're leading into the Ahsoka series. Maybe they show like one scene that's kind of leading into that, just as a tease, something of that nature. But
on a side note, I finally found the tweet. Brendan Wayne actually said, "This next episode is going to make you wish you hadn't asked for more."
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and at the bottom it says, "It might hurt too much."
Oh, no.
Whoa.
I don't like that. That's even worse than what we said it was.
Yeah, I was like that, because I'm like, I want to see what it actually said.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough.
But it's deleted now, right? Like it's gone, is what I heard.
Yeah, I believe so. Because it wasn't an actual tweet. It looks to be like an Instagram or Facebook reel, not reel, but like story. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't like that. That scares me.
That's a little scary.
That's a little scary.
This next episode is going to make you wish you hadn't asked for more. It might just hurt too much.
So what could happen that would hurt too much?
And why is Brendan Wayne saying it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, is it a possibility that Din could go? Yes, especially after reading that. But again, my thing is, I think it would be an absolute mistake. Now, I'm shutting down
Jedi Eternal if Din dies in this season finale.
after Obi-Wan and now Din, bro, get out of here. Seriously, we're hanging up the curtains, guys. Again, it is not far past Disney in the current state of Star Wars to make stupid decisions. Okay, it is not far past them to do that.
As I told you earlier, when we had discussed this, when we first saw it, I said if Disney will kill off Luke Skywalker in the middle of a trilogy,
exactly,
then they'll do anything.
They will do anything. Clearly. So again, it's not far past them to make stupid decisions, but I would say it is an irreparable stupid decision right now to kill Din off. Would it be a huge gotcha moment? that they apparently went for this season, yeah, it would be, certainly. But again, I think he's too integral to this show at this point to kill him off and people stay on board. That's just my opinion.
I would be so furious. I can't even tell. I'm just thinking about it. Like, I can't.
Make him shake your fist in the sky moment.
Lucasfilm.
Disney.
Double deuce.
Yeah, if you know what double deuce is in that specific fashion,
yeah.
please write in the comments what that is, and we will give you a virtual high five.
Oh man, yeah. So, I don't want to think about it. But hey, we don't have long.
No,
we do not have long.
We have less than a week.
If you are listening on Patreon, you might be listening to this on Friday evening. But if you are just a regular old fan, then you'd be listening to this as early as Saturday, which means you have like 4 days until we get the reveal of the finale. And you can make sure to come back to listen to us that Thursday, or we'll probably record on Thursday.
Yeah, so that's Saturday for the regular people.
for the regs.
The regs.
But you can come back, and we're going to talk about what happens in the finale.
Yep.
Whether our
hearts are broken
or not,
we're standing up and cheering.
We're standing up and cheering because we're hearing hearing two conflicting stories here.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that you can necessarily do both. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I mean, hey, if we can do both, then maybe it's the best episode of all time because that's pretty emotional.
Yeah.
But stick around for next week, and we'll let you guys know. We'll talk about it. And we'll make a post so you guys can tell us your thoughts on that finale too, because we do want to hear from you guys and hear what your thoughts are. But until then, make sure you like and subscribe to all the stuff. Patreon, you can get that for $5. We definitely think it's worth it. You should give it a try. Also, our YouTube and our Facebook, where we have most of our interaction with you guys. So we always appreciate if you are our friends there on Facebook. But also, you can listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And we just really appreciate all the support. And we plan to continue to do this. I was joking about the If Din Dies thing.
Right.
We love Star Wars, and we love hearing from you guys. So we're going to continue on, truck on, no matter what. I think.
Debatable.
We'll see. But no, we really appreciate it, guys. We'll catch up with you soon. But we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.
You messed it up.
One more time.
All right. Repeat after me.
Be with you, and we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.
We will